I think you are a bit mad, but at the same time, that was the greatest case ever made for a horse on Let's Talk Racing, and it was an absolute pleasure just to witness it. Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. Today we're going to be doing episode 1 of our Cheltenham Festival 2023 Ante Post series. And before we go any further, you might be thinking, those that have just arrived at Let's Talk Racing, what on earth is going on? We're at the end of September, we're miles and miles away. This series is monthly. So if we started in January, we'd have 2 or 3 episodes. It would be a boring series. What we're going to do is build up from now, have 1 episode a month, looking at all of the big racing, the big talking points that month, and hopefully build towards the Cheltenham Festival, as well as building some hopefully profitable betting slips alongside that. We will be putting up horses at the end of this video, so do stick around for that. But Andrew, first of all, how are you doing? You doing well?
Yeah, very good, Josh. Very excited. As you say, we're probably jumping the gun again, but at this stage, we've covered an awful lot of the early season races in the last couple of videos. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed those on the channel. And just before we get started in Chepstow, I know some people want to harp on about too early to talk about Cheltenham. I understand that. But at the same stage, you've got to have dreams throughout the season. And these dreams are going to hopefully be realised. And we can look back and say we recorded this on the 27th, 28th of September, and look at the big nag we put up.
Chepstow next weekend, I cannot wait. And then Cheltenham the following week, I will be there. Oh, just to be walking up the stands in the car park, cars a foot underground, can't move. A few people have got the champagne out, having a great time. It's absolutely bitterly cold, probably chucking it down. And there will not be a happier man in the Cotswolds than me. It'll just be so good. But before we start, I did want to say a big thank you for all the support on the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel as a whole, really, over the last couple of months. We've started up for the new season. The support's been overwhelming. The numbers are astronomical compared to what we're doing this time last year, for instance. And the start of LTR Plus, the additional content where you can subscribe for £2.99 a month. You can do it down in the description if you've not seen that already. But a massive thank you. And if you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button. So hit that subscribe button as well. It literally takes 2 seconds, but it massively helps us out. And do get your thoughts and comments down below. Literally takes 2 seconds. Please do go over and do that if you do enjoy this video. But let's reflect on 3 or 4 months of National Hunt racing. Yes, it's not the highest quality, but we do have to talk about racing this summer. Some horses struggle to take that form into the winter, and we're going to try and go through some good performers, some performers that really stood out, and work out whether we should be taking those horses through to us. So a couple of novice hurdlers first and foremost. Nikini, decent hurdling effort. I think she's won a maiden hurdle now, and then she went and beat Holly Mountain, who I know you're a fan of as well. Do we think with Nikini she's more of a Dublin Racing Festival mares handicap hurdle, or could she break the mould into graded company?
I suppose she could break the mould into graded company, given Willie Mullins' record with mares, with the way he manages to place them. And there's obviously a great mares programme. There's heaps of graded mares, novice hurdles throughout the year that I'm sure she'll be targeted at. Look, at the end of the day, she's won a maiden hurdle around Kilbeggan. She's won a novice around Listowel, the form of which can certainly be up to interpretation. She won a Kilbeggan maiden hurdle, beating Estepona Sun 3 lengths, who's a 15-race maiden over hurdles. She beat Holly Mount at Listowel, who is a mare that I've kind of fallen off the cliff with, really. She doesn't find too much off the bridle. The third was beaten in a handicap hurdle later in the week in the Harvest Festival. So you can pick apart form. She's jumped okay, no more than probably a moderate jumper at this stage. And I know after the win at Listowel, Patrick Mullins was talking maybe we can think about Cheltenham long-term mares novice. She may run in a race like that. You'd have to think she'd be probably down the pecking order though, and probably a mare I'll look to take on during the winter.
The back end of May, there was a bumper at Punchestown where a certain hype horse in the shape of Demand Driving Duvan went off. Very short price favourite that day, with a big reputation from Gordon's, a big price tag and a fantastic name as well. He was beaten by a horse called Marine Nationale, who at the time I think people were shocked that Demand Drive and Duban got beat off his reputation. So the third that day behind both of them finished third at the Punchestown Festival, so that provides good form. And the fourth also went on to win by 9 lengths the next time out in a bumper. So good form in behind. Marine Nationale then went and won again in a bumper, looking super impressive visually. Do you think he could be the real deal?
Yeah, I really do, Josh. To be honest, I think the form does stack up, which is something that you don't necessarily see in summer bumpers, as you alluded to. The form of that first day at Punchestown, even at Killarney the second time round, a little forerunner race at the time, you might have thought pretty innocuous form. John Ryan's horse in second. My Gaffer went on to win pretty impressively at Listowel. So, you know, there's even substance to that. He made My Gaffer look like a tiny little rat of a thing, to be honest, turning in. He's a big monster of a horse. He's a very good kind of galloping type of horse, and you'd have to think if he goes and progresses over novice hurdles as much as you may hope he does, that he's going to take high rank. For instance, for a bit of context, Facile Vega, when he won his opening bumper at Christmas last year, recorded an RPR 128. Marine Nationale recorded an RPR of 127 down in Killarney. So as much as, you know, sometimes people want to look at that stuff, people can overlook at that stuff, I completely understand that, but it puts into context where that performance is. And I think we've seen from Barry Connell, I know I've banged his drum maybe too many times on this podcast before, but he's got a very good ability to get good stuff out of his horses. I'm sure people saw Enniskerry earlier this week at Roscommon, a good horse that's won a Grade 3 novice chase down there. He's got plenty of decent ammunition this year, and this horse, hopefully, might be the one to scale the top ranks and maybe get Barry Connell pitching again at Grade 1 level.
Yeah, well, it was so impressive at Killarney. The second went on to win next time out, and the third had won a 15-runner bumper on his previous start by 6 lengths. So there's a bit of form there. I think Marine Nationale could develop into a really smart one. I wouldn't be looking at Cheltenham Festival novice hurdles with him. I don't think he's that type of horse whatsoever, but I think he's a big, really high-class chaser maybe down the line, and he'd be more my thinking there. I think I'd be happy to let him go. And also, I'm not exactly sure what trip he'd be seen best over, because he looks like a big stayer in my eyes, but he's winning over 2 miles, so I suppose that's an interesting one. A horse that we should talk about is Unbeaten, trained by Willie Mullins. They're talking about the Grade 1 Royal Bond with him, and that's No Risk, No Fun. 3 from 3, including 2 bumpers. He made his hurdling debut at Listowel the other day. I actually think this horse's best form was when he beat Spread Boss Ted on his second start at Galway. He had previously finished 6 lengths behind Marine Nationale, so there's a nice bit of form tied into there. But No Risk, No Fun, a really strong traveller, likes to get on with things. I'm not sure if that's a positive, but the Royal Bond has been mentioned by Willie. We're thinking Grade 1s. Do you think realistically he's a Grade 1 horse down the line?
He probably has the engine for it, Josh. He certainly is a bit rough around the edges, though. He needs to probably improve his hurdling no end. Wouldn't surprise me at all if this horse rocked up maybe for the 4-auction novice hurdle at Navan, a Grade 3 event in kind of late October time. That might be a nice stepping stone for him, between that and the Royal Bond. Certainly that's a tried and tested method they went down with Quick Grabham, should I say, many years ago to win the Royal Bond. So I'm not so sure. I know there was probably differing views of him on Twitter. There were some people telling us he was the best horse they've ever seen. That was probably English King syndrome, first horse we've seen out of the traps, really, that looked good. But at the same stage, you've got on Twitter, and these are the people I need to call out, Josh. They're doom-mongers. That's what I call them. They just are not happy. We're unable to be happy as jumps fans. We see a horse win a maiden hurdle around Listowel. Bear in mind, not much in behind, completely understand that. But he's won by 10 lengths, hard held. We're allowed to be excited. We're allowed to say this horse could be decent. I feel with these doommongers, I could put a tweet up saying, what a lovely day, it's sunny here in Dublin. And somebody will reply saying, well, it's going to rain tomorrow. That's their attitude towards life. We need a bit of excitement in the world. No risk, no fun. Am I telling you he's going to win the Supreme? No, I'm not. But he's a good horse. He's unbeaten. And I think he could have the engine to be probably a Grade 1, Grade 2 horse in time.
I struggle to get behind him with spring festivals and Grade 1s. I really don't see that at all. But personally, I just don't think that Willie Mullins will be running anything of real substance during the summer in maiden hurdles. Like, if No Risk, No Fun is looking as impressive as he is, how good is Facile Vega going to be? It's going to be absolutely absurd. Like, Facile Vega's just come into training, and you've got No Risk, No Fun winning, scooting up, having a really good summer campaign. I think he's smart. I think he's above average, but I'm just not sure he will be winning graded races this season. He might win an early season graded race, but I don't think that will carry on throughout the winter. Another novice hurdler trained by Willie Mullins, Champ Kiely, who looks more of a stayer, a big galloper, maybe a smart chaser down the line. Is there a horse you'd maybe compare him to that Willie's had before? Is he just a summer horse, or could he be top draw?
Yeah, again, he's probably one of those so hard to equate at this moment. I know he's a horse that's attracted a bit of support for the likes of Ballymore's and Albert Bartlett's down the line. My worry with this horse more than anything, I must say, before ability speaking, is that he's won his point-to-point in 2020, he's won a bumper in 2021 and a maiden hurdle in 2022. He's obviously not quite the easiest to get right. And I understand he was meant to run at Listowel the other day. I think the ground maybe went a little bit against him. There was an awful lot of rain in the morning. And I'm there going, well, if he can't handle a little bit of summer rain down in Listowel, what's the story here? And I'm there going, is he going to get to the track enough to be an Albert Bartlett horse? That would be the only race you'd even really be considering him in. His maiden hurdle form at Galway is more than adequate. He's beaten a Spurty, who's a good summer horse. He's beaten the Joseph O'Brien horse in third, Dawn Patrol, I think it is.
Dawn Rising,
sorry, that's the name. And he went and won very easily the other day. So the form looks decent. You'd have to see it more from him, and you'd have to probably see a full season where you can guarantee the horse is sound all the time. Because you see like a Willie Mullins horse, for instance, like Jungle Boogie, riddled with ability. But he won a bumper one year, he's won a maiden hurdle one year and a beginner's chase one year, and we haven't seen him since. And yet they're going, this horse is actually never going to do it because he's never going to be right enough.
Moving on to novice chasers. Life in the Park won the other day. Any thoughts on him? Same colours as Melena?
Yeah, look, he did it very nicely. He was a slow burner over hurdles and won a few races at the back end of last year. Jumped pretty well. It was a race that fell apart. Obviously, Bardenstown Lad was fairly awful. I think there were a few excuses there, but he still wasn't very good. And the rest of them, to be honest, you're looking at them going, they're looking for handicaps down the line. You've got Perfect Attitude, Falcano and Good Time Johnny. Like the three of them, the last thing they would have wanted to be doing was blowing their mark in a beginner's chase in the Stole. Like Good Time Johnny, I'd make him nap of the year almost to win the 2-5 handicap chase at the Dublin Racing Festival. I've put all my eggs in the basket whenever that Ante Post market comes out. Because he's just going to be mucked around for a couple of beginner's chases. We'll run a decent race at Fairyhouse in early January and then go on to the Dublin Racing Festival. But that's neither here nor there. The winner was good, he was smart, wouldn't be getting carried away by the form. Bardenstown Lad was no hope. He didn't run to form, and the rest of them were probably looking for marks. So I'd want to be seeing it again. But he jumped nicely.
Talking of handicaps, Chemical Energy ran in the Martin Pipe. He has gone novice chasing. He won last time out. Looked reasonably impressive doing so. Could he be a bit better than A Life in the Park? Or where would he kind of rank in what we've seen so far this summer? Yeah,
look, he did it quite nicely at Listowel. He blotted his copybook on Chase Debut earlier in the summer. Hard to know where you really go with him. I think Chemical Energy would have been an absolute shoe-in to go for the old novices handicap, the 0-145 race over 2.5. Without that, you're kind of in a rock and a hard place with a horse like him. Do you run him in a Grand Annual or potentially a plate? Or maybe you just keep him to Ireland, try to win a lucrative novices handicap or something like that. I don't think he's a graded performer. The horse he beat by 2.5 lengths, Matty's Mountain, was beaten later in the week by Silver Class, who's rated 117 for Tony Martin. So the form's not overly robust. And I'd be looking to take him on, personally speaking. He wouldn't be a horse that does much for me.
Is Adamantly Chosen going to prove to be a graded performer?
Maybe. Horse that I haven't really taken to. Did it nicely on Chase Debut. Graham was a bit of a dodge pot in behind at this stage, though he wins very few races. And Adamantly Chosen has blotted his copybook in 2 big handicap hurdles, was all over the place in the Martin Pipe, and I really fancied him, and it was an absolute no-shower in the Galway hurdle. So he's certainly going to have to prove my trust and probably put in a few better performances in a row, especially before I'd even be entertaining him in graded contests.
Moving on to 2 established chasers Vaucelet, who went and won the Champion Hunter Chase race at Stratford. It feels odd to talk about Hunter Chases, but I do want to mention it because I've spoke about him for a lot of last year, saying I'd love him to go to the Hunter Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. He didn't. His stablemate Winged Leader went there and got chinned by Billaway. I'm absolutely convinced, and I've had a conversation with a couple of people at yard, that Vaucelet is better than Winged Leader. Also got beat by Billaway at Punchestown. But I think there are excuses that day. I think if Vaucelet didn't go through the last, he'd have won. I'm pretty sure to my memory. I think Vaucelet's just going to continue getting better and better and better. And this year, I can tell you now, he definitely will be campaigned around the final at Cheltenham, that big main race.
He certainly looks a really good horse. I wouldn't be dampening your fire for him. You've gone on about him for a while now, and I can see why. I think really some of the fuel behind your fire is that you're desperate for a horse that's won twice at Stratford to go on and win a race at Cheltenham. But
yeah, there is that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. Personally speaking, I thought Winged Leader was the best Hunter Chaser around last year. And I thought Winged Leader was the best horse in the Hunter's Chase at Cheltenham. I won't hear anything about it. He got done really by the Gordon Elliott horse that ran him into the ground turning in. He got chinned by Billaway. And if he's better than Winged Leader, I think he's going to take some stopping. Billaway's another year older, and Vaucelet, to my knowledge, is only 7 going 8. He's actually very young for that game. You look at an awful lot of Hunter Chasers, they're 10, 11, 12. They're veterans of the game. This horse has got less miles on the clock, and he's a strong stayer. He's winning that Stratford race. I know Stratford's a tight track, but it's 3-3. So you'd have to think 3-2 around Cheltenham will be of no issue to him. And if he progresses, if he keeps going the way he's going, you'd have to think he'd have a big chance.
I was this close away from making him my first Cheltenham Festival Ante Post pick, but I refrained. It couldn't be a Hunter Chaser. That would just be wrong. The final open chaser we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about 2 really. They both ran in the same race. One didn't complete. He came down at the last. Busselton won. Hewick fell when looking like he was probably going to win. Hewick was running off a mark in the low 160s, and he was potentially going to win. That might make him a 165 horse, or does it? I really do not see how Hewick is a 165 horse. There's been a few people that have mentioned Gold Cups with him down the line, and I think that is absolutely balmy. I see the romantic angle of a handicapper improving to be a Gold Cup horse, and look, 3 miles 2 is probably his perfect trip. He obviously won at Sandown at the back end of last year, did my good mate Kitty's Light, and I was absolutely fuming, and it isn't fueled by that, trust me, a little bit. He went there, he won well, and he's improved, but summer form and summer handicap marks and what a horse can achieve during the summer can be completely out of proportion. I remember Mick Pastor last year for Paul Nicholls, and I do not want to compare Hewick to Mick Pastor. There is leagues between them. But just an example, I think Mick Pastor got up to a mark of 153. I could tell you now he could run in the Paddy Power Plate that year off 135. He wouldn't win it. He was running in 3-4 runner races throughout the whole of the season. He was winning handicaps, beating horses that were also summer horses that had inflated handicap marks compared to the winter horses. And yes, on paper, if you beat a 145 horse, giving them no weight by 5 lengths, you should go up £5. That's the game. But the distinct quality between summer horses and winter horses, in my opinion, is large. I think that is the case with Hewick. I think he might be a low 150s horse, if I'm being completely honest, not a 165 horse or a potential Gold Cup contender. I might be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong, and it'd be fantastic for connections if I was wrong. But I just do not see it at all. Like, he's going to the American Grand National, a tried and tested route for Gold Cup winners down the line. And then he's going to have to run in probably the Down Royal race, the Grade 1 Champion Chase, to find out. That would be a nice starting point, you would imagine. Might come a little bit too soon with all this travelling. But there he's going to turn up against probably Galvin, maybe a Statler, Frodon, horses like that who aren't going to be winning Gold Cups. Statler might do. He could improve. I don't think he'll run there, actually. But he's going to be running against horses that won't be winning Gold Cups. And I don't think he's going to be competitive against those. Imagine if he turned up in the Lexus at Christmas against Galopin Des Champs and Appelutard. I would give you any money he doesn't finish within 25 lengths of Galopin Des Champs. Do not see it in the slightest.
No, I get your point. I think mostly from what I've seen with Hewick, obviously it's been great, the performances he's put in off big weights. I completely understand it, but at the same stage, he's beating the same horses again and again. He's beaten the El Barras of the world, the Busseltons of the world. Like if he stood up, he'd have won the Kerry National. He'd have beaten Busselton maybe a length and a half. Durasso's back in third, another solid yardstick. Durasso's gone to Cheltenham 2 or 3 times. He's been lapped. I could really plausibly see the angle potentially of Hewick in a Grand National, to be honest, off that type of weight, because I think the Grand National is becoming so condensed. The fences aren't as steep as they used to be. I could give people credit for that opinion, certainly. But you're just going in a different ball game. You've agreed to a T, to be honest. You're just going a different ball game at Grade 1 level. The pace you're going mid-race as well. It's a bit of a cavalry charge down to the first or second in these big handicaps, and then they slow it up in front. A lot of front runners always win these big handicaps because they slow it up so much. And I'm there thinking, if Shark Hanlon genuinely believes that he has got a Gold Cup winner on his hands, he's won the Galway Plate, which is dozens of money. He bought the horse for 800 quid. Like, the last place you're turning up to is the Kerry National. Like, if you think, this horse, gee whiz, he's going to beat Applutar. The last place you're turning him up is Listowel. And that's no discredit to Listowel. And it's a big pot, completely understand it. But I think Shark is being fantastic with this horse because he's seeing all these big prizes. There's no reason he's going out to America other than it's a big prize and it's potentially a soft enough race. And then he wins another 200 grand. Shark's an absolute master. He's bought this horse for the price of a pig, for goodness sake, and yet he's going out and winning 200 grand races. He cost 800 beans, I think. So, he's fantastic with what he's done, but you've got to draw a line. And I'm exactly the same as you. And now the viewers have got a double rant, but I don't see the Grade 1 angle in the slightest.
What they've done with him and the money that they've earned over the last few months has been outrageous, and it was so unlucky to not win the Kerry National the other day, and there will be a big pot on him again, and I hope there's a big pot on him again, but it won't be the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Right, now, moving on to questions. We've got 5 questions for people that have... 6 questions, actually, from people that have sent in. Thank you very much for those. If you do want to do that, there's some in the community section, or go and follow us on Twitter, or follow us on Instagram. We've now got an Instagram. All the best pictures on there. Do go follow that down below. I think it's LTR Pod. We're just basically models now, really.
Yeah,
can do anything. The first question, Mark Quigley. He asks, should Willie have a crack at the Gold Cup with Allaho or stay safe with the Ryanair? Should he? Not saying will he, should he?
No, I don't think so. To be honest, I don't think he'd stay at Cheltenham. And if you want to win, obviously, there's people out there that will say that you want to go to a Gold Cup, it would be good for racing and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if I was paying the bills, I'm not caring what Josh from Stratford and Andrew from South Dublin is thinking about, about it being good for racing. I'm thinking about I want to win at Cheltenham, and he'll win the Ryanair. And you only have to look back at the RSA from 3 or 4 years ago. He didn't quite get home over 3 miles at Cheltenham. I know he's won at 3-1 at Punchestown. It's not the same thing as 3-2 at Cheltenham. And I don't see the rationale behind it. And if I was him, I want a Cheltenham winner, and it's going to be the Ryanair. I know that's not romantic. It's not good for racing. But these people don't really care about our opinions about what's good for racing.
I've got 2 opinions. And I'm sitting on the fence completely.
Oh,
but he's potentially the best 3-mile chaser in the UK and Ireland. He demolished them at Punchestown. Should the best 3-mile chaser potentially in the land run in the Gold Cup? Probably yes. That being said, and this is the counter argument, he's so effective over 2.5 at Cheltenham, he jumps them and he'll win the Ryanair if he gets there sound. Why change? Why change it? From a sports perspective, people that you've just criticised, I get it. He probably should be running. And there's an argument to say, you've mentioned there, 3 years ago he didn't stay in an RSA. Him and Minella held the leather in that. Minella since won a Gold Cup, and they stopped at the Hill and Champ won. He is a better horse. He's a more mature horse. I'm not sure. I tell you what, I actually think he could run in a Gold Cup. but I think it massively hinges on the ability of Ferny Hollow. I actually think that Willie's looking at Ferny Hollow as a potential 2.5 miler, and they might campaign him or try him over 2.5, because he kept talking about Ferny Hollow in his novice season before he went novice chasing as a potential stayer down the line. I don't see any reason why that's changed. He beat Riviere de Tel at Leopardstown over 2 miles, giving her lots of weight, good form, but is that champion chase form down the line? I'd have been a bit disappointed. I don't think he's that good, actually. I don't think he's as in over 2 miles as Energumene. And I think Energumene will be the champion chase horse. I think they will try Ferny Hollow over 2.5. I think if he's really impressive and they see him as a horse that could run in a Ryanair and maybe got a favourite, then why not roll the dice with Allaho and just find out for sport? Not sure. Mike Cooper asks, will Galopin Des Champs stay the Gold Cup distance? Again, there's another one. Obviously, Aflutard in the Cheveley Park Silks won the Gold Cup last year. So would Allaho go up in trip when owners have got a Gold Cup winner? But equally, why would Willie send him there if he thinks Galopin Des Champs would stay the Gold Cup trip? Would you want Allaho and Galopin Des Champs in there? It's a really tricky one.
Well, you wouldn't really, because the two of them would probably bite each other's throat and neither of them would win if they both ran. Like, they're quite similar in terms of the way they go about things. Now, whether it becomes, you could get a switcheroo. Like, if Galopin Des Champs patently doesn't look like he's staying at the end of 3 miles in the Lexus, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if he rocks up, it's the Savills chase now, and he's tying up at the end, and you go, oh, geez, is he actually going to get home in a Gold Cup? Would you go to the Ryanair with him? Allaho's the more mature horse. I don't know. I would like to hope he will stay, but he needs to somewhat man up. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say about a horse that's so good and has won Grade 1s and looks a seriously good horse. But he needs to learn to race more efficiently. I know Ruby Walsh has talked about this at length in his novice campaign. It's something that he just has to learn. He has to learn to settle better. He's got to learn to not go out and give the first 3 fences like a show jumper would and give them 5 feet of air. You've got to jump more economically. And if he learns to do that throughout the year, which I'm hoping Open Grade 1 company will do, I see no reason to suggest why he couldn't stay.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. He's obviously a strong traveller and an exuberant jumper, which is just the recipe for disaster for a Gold Cup horse. But he showed no signs of stopping over 2.6 at Leopardstown or 3 miles at Punchestown. Liam Slaney, where do we think Ferny Hollow will go in the run-up to / likely Cheltenham target? I'll let you say this one because obviously I've already said mine. Yeah,
look, I think you're just looking to see him back on track. Whether he'll start off over 2 miles potentially and maybe work his way up depends probably how he runs over 2 miles. You could certainly see him maybe running in the 2 mile Grade 1 at Leopardstown at Christmas time if he's right, if he's ready to go. Because Energumene probably won't run there. Energumene will probably go to Cork and then maybe on to Ascot or the Dublin Racing Festival. So I would say maybe that race at Christmas time might be the one, but it's just hard to know. I'm just wary. Obviously wary because he's been ruled out of Cheltenham a couple of times now, but also I'm just very sceptical about that Riviere de Tel form and stuff like that. Like, I know he's given the horse plenty of weight, but like Riviere de Tel was lapped in Grade 1s at the back end of last year. Now, whether she was over the top, I don't know. Maybe there was excuses for that, but he's going to have to come out. He's going to have to prove that he's well and truly up to Open Grade 1 company, as is Appreciated, who we're going to see hopefully novice chasing this year. But that's the big form line we're looking at. And is it as good as we thought it was 3 years ago when they ran away with the champion bumper? Queensbrook was in third time lucky was in fifth. Those horses haven't turned into world beaters. Sometimes you can have a look at a piece of form at the time and think it's maybe better than it is. So these horses have to go and prove themselves, and I think Ferny Hollow's top of that list for me.
Danny Tomlin asks, where do you think Jonbon will be targeted? Now, we've seen a picture of Jonbon looking extremely well. Where do you think he could go this season?
I think he'll go towards the Arkle. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. He's shown speed before. No, we've discussed it a couple of times. I'm sure he'll start over 2 miles as a novice chaser and see how he gets on. He looks great. Like, it's obviously great to see these horses and great to see these horses look so well and in their yard and stuff like that. I just always get top of the game syndrome with these horses, though. Everyone looks at these horses and, like, we don't learn it. We learn that the horse is looking great and he's muscled up and, you know, he looks bigger than last year. What's that actually telling? You know, we've got an awful lot of people watching these videos who don't know the composition of a horse. They don't know what a good summer means. And you're telling, like, we're hearing, look at him, look how big he looks, look how good he looks, and yet you're hearing whispers that he jumps terribly. So, like, what are we actually to learn?
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point. But at the same time, at the start of this show, you criticise people just for being negative when you can just get excited. And people are just getting excited. They've seen a picture of Jonbon looking well. I don't think you need to be a horse expert to work out. He looks pretty well. He looks like a beast.
Oh, he looks super.
Nicky Henderson loves the Arkle. JP McManus, not so much. Nicky Henderson will have the final say. That's just how it's going to go. Jonbon will be campaigned over 2 miles. He will follow the Shishkin and LTR and that route of going to Kempton for the novice chase, probably the Kempton race at Christmas, whatever. He will be campaigned around the Arkle. Who's going to put it up to him in the early part of the season? Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. Adagio, Montmirail, not a 2-miler. Soaring Glory, not good enough. West Cork will probably be winning his races, but isn't going to be good enough to beat Jonbon. Goshen, do not see it in the slightest. What I've worked out is if I had a half-decent 2-mile hurdler, I'd be forcing them over fences, whether they could jump or not. Like, the prize money for the campaign this year is off the scale. Jonbon's going to mop up graded races and probably grade 1s before Cheltenham. He'll go into the Arkle a short price, and I would be against him because he's not going to have beaten anything. But I think Jonbon is a stayer, and we're going to find that out at Cheltenham. And it'll be frustrating because he's wasted a year and he could have gone up in trip, and we find out then. Tom Lloyd, which 3 horses do you think are likely to repeat their success at Cheltenham? Go on, 3 horses. This is a really tough one, actually. I was overthinking massively.
Yeah, no, it is a hard one. I ended up really going for the obvious, I'm afraid. I know no points for originality here. I think an Ergamine will win the champion chase. I was all over Shishkin last year. I couldn't touch him with a barge pole at the moment. I'd have to go and see it, and I'm just not convinced. I think Allaho will run in the Ryanair, and if he runs in the Ryanair, he'll win. And probably my most confident of all 3, because again, you look at what's coming up, and I go, there is nothing coming up. And it means that Flooring Porter will win the stairs again. Because I think the Albert Bartlett, like, look at the Albert Bartlett, the front 2 are going chasing. Bardenstown lad, like, God knows what you think about him. But the one thing I can assure you, and I'm Bardenstown lad's love child, the horse has not a chance in the stairs hurdle. Like, absolutely 0 chance if he went back hurdling into a race like that. Just, I don't like that angle at all. And the rest of them either are A, no good, or B, going chasing. So there's nobody coming up from that division, and he's beaten all the horses before. He's beaten the likes of Champ, Classical Dream. I just don't see who's coming to beat him.
I went through a lot of them kind of one by one, working out realistically what are the challenges. So Facile Vega, you would think if he was to run in one of those novice hurdles, he'd be favourite as long as all being well. But the issue is we've seen a champion bumper winner. We've not seen him jump a hurdle, and sometimes just young horses don't improve. Something might come out of the woodwork. It's a novice hurdle. You're then looking at Edwardstone. Don't see it at all. Don't think he'll win the champion chase. You're looking at the champion hurdle picture. Honeysuckle, Constitution Hill, Stateman, Vauban, 4 Cheltenham Festival winners. But that's so competitive. What I really like, I think Constitution Hill is the best 2-miler out there, but it's a really tough division. He's got to prove it. He's got to beat 3 really good horses to prove that. You mentioned Flooring Porter. I think he's definitely up there in the list. But the Stayers Hurdle division is just so unpredictable. I couldn't do it, personally. And then with Allaho, again, he's not on my list. There's a chance he could be tempted into a Gold Cup for whatever reason. So the 3 for me, Delta Work, I think will win the cross country if he's fit. An Ergamine was in there. I agree with you there. And then I had the Nice Guy, because I'm just not sure what's going to go 3-mile novice chasing. Final question, and this is kind of what you alluded to. Adam Bell asked, Might I is staying hurdling. What's your thoughts?
Look, Might Eye's a perfectly good horse. He ran into some very good horses. He obviously ran into the back of Constitution Hill, Jonbon, 3 Strike Life. Does that not kind of prove that he's not really up to grade 1 level? I don't think he's going to be taking any, open grade 1s this year. Do you campaign him around trying to run in the likes of the Relkeel hurdle over 2.5? You might give him a chance in a Cleve hurdle if you want to go down a stairs hurdle route. I'm just thinking on the spot here of what you might do with the horse. He's a perfectly good horse. He might pick up a grade 2, he might pick up a grade 3, certainly throughout the year, because it's not an overly strong division in England, but I'd struggle to believe how he makes up into either a stairs hurdle or a champion hurdle horse, or even an Aintree hurdle horse, to be honest. I just think he's a little bit short of grade 1 class.
They're doing it because it's a wide open division. Like Flooring Porter sets a standard. Is he a vintage stayers hurdle winner? No, not yet anyway. And in behind is not great at all. Like Time Hill's going novice chasing. Champ is going to be going down this road, but you can't see it at all. Classical Dream doesn't show it on a consistent basis. Like, it's so wide open. I don't think it would take a really, really classy horse to definitely place in the race. So Nicky Henderson's looked at it as well and said, walking on air, I probably don't need a staying novice chaser this season. Why don't we have a crack with him? So he's going to stay hurdling and go down the stayers hurdle route. There's going to be a lot of horses like Mai Tai walking on air that were decent novices last year without being top draw that will find themselves going down this route. Just to find out, it's an open division, why not? There's plenty of big pots, lots of prize money on the way that they could win. The one thing I would say about Mai Tai is Harry Fry is a brilliant trainer at getting a horse, winning, getting confidence into them, and them just improving. Like, I remember, Harry developed into a stayers hurdle horse, or when he won the Albert Bartlett that year, he came through handicaps, he just won, kept winning, and then turned into a really nice prospect towards the spring. Could see that happening with Mai Tai. Not saying he's going to win the race, but I could see him winning a couple of races consecutively, maybe going through the handicap system. There we go. There's our questions done and dusted. We've spoken about the summer racing. This is the moment we're all waiting for. Andrew Blair White's first Ante Post selection of the upcoming Cheltenham Ante Post series.
Well, people have been waiting for a long time. It's been around a year since we did the first episode last year, and I was thinking to myself, why on earth change the formula? We had actually probably, even though the horse didn't win, we had our most success last year from a novice hurdler going for the Albert Bartlett. And I've got a weird theory, because people will tell you that the Albert Bartlett, why on earth are you looking at the Albert Bartlett in September? Which is kind of true, I understand that. I think with the way anti-post betting is becoming, the Albert Bartlett is becoming one of the best anti-post markets out there, because you can run through so many of the top of the market and go, no, they're not going to run. Facile Vega's in there, Redemption Day's in there, American Mike's in there. Things are going to have gone seriously wrong for these horses to turn up. No Risk, No Fun is in there at 16-1. Who are the people backing the horse at 16-1? He looks like he needs to drop down in trip from 2 miles, then up in trip. So therefore, if you can find a horse at this stage of the season that you know is going to go down this route, I think it's worth having a play on. Same connections in terms of same trainer as last year's Bardenstown lad. So I'm keeping it in the family and I'm putting up Wrexham at 33-1. I know a few people on the members on the Plus may have heard me say it in a little bit of a boozy way at the end of the vlog over with Josh. But I just think this horse has got a very similar profile. I actually think, I'm going to say it now, I think he's a better horse than Bardenstown lad. I think he travels with more zest. This isn't a behind the bridle horse. This horse travels, he jumps, he actually gets into races. He sometimes can even make 1 from 3 in bumpers this year, ran away with a 2 mile 3 bumper, 5th in that 2 mile 3 bumper. Josh has won 2 races since. Then goes to Galway 2 mile maiden hurdle, gets beaten into 3rd. Merlin Giant won the race. I'd be surprised if he doesn't win a big handicap for Emmett Mullins. Who Briscoe in 2nd, good horse for Willie Mullins, won next time out. 4th and 6th have been beaten, a combination of a half length in maiden hurdles since, and the 5th has won a maiden hurdle by 7.5 lengths. Wins a Mickey Mouse maiden hurdle around Downpatrick over 2 miles 6. Don't look at the form in behind, absolutely useless race, but won by half the track. Then goes to Killarney. Now this is the main one, 2 miles 7, novice hurdle. 6 horses in the race, 1 absolute joker, 300 to 1. The other 5 horses, including Wrexham, had 1 summer maiden hurdles. So we've got Esperti in there, Toss Again, Dragon Rock and Level Never Ending. He beats Toss Again 5 lengths. He beats Esperti. Now Esperti is the horse we mentioned earlier. Champ Kiely beat Esperti 21 lengths. Every man and dog's heard about Champ Kiely. Wrexham beats him 22 lengths. I haven't heard a dicky bird apart from my own reflection telling people about Wrexham. So therefore, you know, like, we've got to just take it as form goes. Level Never Ending was halfway across the track. Dragon Rock would have been beaten 20 lengths. He's rated in the mid-120s. He's going to go to the October meeting. If he wins that race, he'll contract in price. He'll then move on. He might be given a bit of a break. I suspect he'll go to Musselburgh, and he'll definitely, you know, obviously we're in September. He could get injured. His form could go off the tracks. I'm not saying he won't, you know, I'm not saying he 100% is going to turn up in March, but I have been told, I've got in contact, I've got fairly decent authority that the Albert Bartlett is 100% the plan with this horse, and that they think he's quite a good horse. And I think at 33 to 1, is that not worth a poke at this stage? We can have our dream for the whole year. Hopefully it goes all right. And if he wins in October time, I'll be shushing the haters for who will be giving out that I'm putting up another John McConnell horse in September time. But Wrexham, 33 to 1, Albert Bartlett. You heard it here first on the 29th of September. Now, Josh, I think that's possibly, like, I actually backed this horse earlier in the summer at 66s, and that's hideous after timing. But I was compiling the case for this video. I actually convinced myself so much that I've gone in again at 33s. That's how much I believe in my own rational thoughts of down Patrick maiden hurdle form and Killarney novice form. Like, can you tell me anything better?
I think you are a bit mad, but at the same time, that was the greatest case ever made for a horse on Let's Talk Racing. And it was an absolute pleasure just to witness it. My first Cheltenham Festival Ante Post selection is a horse that many people will know. It's for the Ballymore Novices Hurdle, and he's 9 to 1 with William Hill, trained by Gordon Elliott, American Mike. I couldn't predict what Willie Mullins is going to do with Facile Vega. He changes his mind every other day. That being said, Facile Vega will start over 2 miles. It's an absolute certainty. And I think he'll dominate the 2 mile division. And unlike last year, going into the Supreme and Ballymore picture, Willie had a decision to make because he had Dysart Dynamo and Sir Gerhard, who had both shown really high levels of form. I think people thought Sir Gerhard was the better of the two, but no one really knew whether I think Facile Vega is going to be in a league of his own. People will know he's the best 2 mile novice hurdler in Ireland, and he will just simply run in the race that he's going to win, and that's going to be the Supreme, fingers crossed. If that happens, other than the likes of a Jet Powered that could come out and be really smart, Antabai that could come out and be really smart, Foxfire Go for Gordon who could come out and be really smart, horses that haven't yet hit a race course are obviously the concerns and the dangers, but American Mike is going to be campaigned around the Ballymore. He will probably be targeted. He'll go down the Envoy N route. He will run in the Laurels of Nace. I think he could probably win a Laurels of Nace. I think that race would be absolutely perfect for him. 2.5 miles. I think he's a stayer. Gordon's already mentioned he's going up in trip. I don't see how he's going to run an Albert Bartlett unless, like you mentioned, something's gone seriously wrong. It's not the most exciting like yours with Wrexham, but I think 9 to 1's decent, and I can only see it getting shorter. So American Mike for the Ballymore. There we go. I did hope you enjoyed episode 1 of the Let's Talk Racing Cheltenham Ante Post series. Sorry it took so long. I think it's probably a 40-minute video, one of the longest we've ever done, but we do hope you enjoyed that 40 minutes. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to play along with us, get your first selection for the Cheltenham Ante Post series down below in the comments. We look forward to reading them.